Hello and welcome to the Aiken County Soil and Water Conservation District podcast. Our goal is to provide another way for people to connect to the district's priorities and programs and to make the watershed and its issues come alive. Today we're going to talk to Dr. Alec Lackmann from the University of Minnesota-Duluth. He's an expert of the Bigmouth buffalo, which is an incredible yet understudied native fish species that can live to be over 100 years old. Dr. Lackmann studied them right here at the Rice Lake National Wildlife Refuge, and as he'll tell us, they face a lot of challenges in the county. They haven't successfully reproduced since the 1950s, and combined with unlimited harvesting, their population might not be sustainable for much longer. There's still time, though, to give them the same protections that we afford to many other fish, and to keep studying them to make sure that this species can thrive for years to come.
Yeah, my name is Alec Lackmann. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Minnesota-Duluth. I'm a fish researcher.
Yeah, so I guess about the buffalo fish, it has a pretty wide range. Am I wrong about that? And so why would you decide to study the Rice Lake population or Rice River population in particular?
Upon making the first site visit there, it became clear that and reading about it too before even going there, that it's been long documented that the bigmouth buffalo migrate the Rice River to go to Rice Lake to spawn. So there's this fascinating bigmouth buffalo migration that's occurring year after year, and there's these points along the Rice River that one can observe this incredible migration.
Do you know where they go the rest of the year? Do we know how far these fish are migrating or where they're migrating from? Or is that kind of...
Yeah, that's an excellent question as well, because, and this is something we point out in the discussion of the paper as well, that it's not known precisely where they're coming from. So it is known very well that they're migrating through the Rice River in the spring each year to make it to Rice Lake to spawn. And then shortly after spawning, they depart and leave, and they're not evident there through pretty much the rest of the year. Probably the leading hypothesis is that they're coming from the main stem of the Mississippi River. At least that's what many have proposed, especially talking with anglers and others at the site. But yeah, it just hasn't been studied. It hasn't been figured out yet.
Can you tell like what you found out about this, the condition of buffalo fish in this part of Aiken County?
Yeah, so it's incredible. This population that's migrating the Rice River, going to Rice Lake National Wildlife Refuge every single year, even though they're spawning annually every single year, there hasn't been a major successful recruitment event since the mid 1950s. And actually, if you look at the age structure of the data, it's really the 1940s and a little blip in the early 1950s that really basically make up the vast majority of this population. So here you have one of the oldest populations of vertebrate in the world, right here in Aiken County. They have an average age of 78 as of 2024, a median age of 79. The middle 50% of the age distributions from like 72 to 82 years. The modal age is 82 years as of 2024. So that's the most common age, over 80 in this population. It's incredible because there's nothing else like it. And it's right here in Aiken County, and they're migrating there, and they're visible, like they're charismatic mega fish that people, maybe have long cast aside or written off as rough fish.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about a population of animal that's, all of them are about as old as my grandparent. It's kind of unbelievable to think about. And
It really is.
yeah, one of the threats is that there's a lot more bow fishing than there used to be, and so that could be a conservation concern. And especially now that you're talking about how like the older fish are really valuable for keeping the population alive because they put in a lot of effort into reproducing successfully. Like, how do those two things like interact? Like how,
Yes.
because you have this old population and people are, killing essentially like 80-year-old fish, and how many more of them can there be? So can you talk a little bit about how that plays into the conservation issue?
Yeah, there's definitely reason for conservation concern. And I think the bottom line is a precautionary approach is necessary. And as many listeners probably know, the state of Minnesota has actively like been looking at addressing some of these concerns about some of these species that were just for many years just called rough fish and cast aside as inconsequential, like there's no value to these species is what the common paradigm was.
But
There's definitely concern, but I would like to add that the DNR has changed its narrative
oh,
about these species. They are making efforts to change this, and I think like they're maybe not able to um, comment or whatever on all of the aspects all at once, but I think there's a lot of work in progress being done because there is that understanding that holistic view of ecosystems is important and it's really well known. So I think, yeah, the historic issue was definitely a problem, but I think there's reason for optimism in the future here because I think Minnesota is actually leading the country, so to speak, with regard to um, addressing this sort of prejudice that was there regarding these species. So,
yeah, and it's really interesting because learning about this fish, it kind of makes me think about what it means to be responsible, stewards of the
or
environment.
exactly, a responsible steward.
Because if, no one had come along and kind of studied this fish, a lot of people would never have known about it. And we could have went on thinking that this is kind of an infinite resource, like so many other things that we do. If we didn't know this about buffalo fish 10 years ago and we do now, it kind of makes you think like how many other fish like this are out here, like how many other species are out here. It makes you think about questioning, our assumptions about what's valuable and what's not and how treat everything with respect. I look at everything with curiosity because otherwise you don't know what you're losing.
Exactly, yeah. It's about keeping an open mind, like just keeping an open mind in general and critically thinking about issues can help you to realize that there's a lot we still don't know and yeah, we don't want to have prejudice against any one group of people or any one group of species or anything like that. It speaks to the value of having a holistic view and trying to keep an open mind. I think that's where, for the benefit of all stakeholders in this, definitely we want to understand the things that we value. And with that understanding will come informed decisions and sustainability so that this amazing resource can be valued for generations to come. The bigmouth buffalo is testament to the many of the unsolved mysteries still of the natural world. Because here was a species that for so long was just put aside, but here we're finding so many fascinating things, and it makes you curious, what else might we not know that's still out there? Like, I think a lot of people in this day and age think that we know like these types of things extremely well by now with all technology and all these things, but actually there are still many unsolved mysteries in the natural world. One of which also pertains to the bigmouth buffalo and other buffalo fishes for that matter, is that we don't understand how they're still getting better with age at like 80 to 90 to 100 years old. They're still improving physiologically, getting better with their stress response, their immune function, and they're showing no signs of DNA damage or telomere shortening with age either. And basically, they defy typical aging things that vertebrates typically deal with. So, what is it that they've got that makes them so special? We do not know. But what if this is something that could be of value to medicine and things like this species could really be a treasure for many different reasons?
Could end on a high note then. That's
Yeah.
exciting. And we're at the end of our time, so thank you so much, Alec.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for having me, and I really enjoyed talking with you.
Thank you for listening to the second episode of the Aiken County Soil and Water Conservation District podcast. If you want to learn more about Dr. Lackmann's study, the University of Minnesota Duluth News did a fantastic summary called Research Brief: 50-Year Generation Gap in Minnesota's Longest Lived Fish. You can find it on the UMD News website, and the original article is published in Scientific Reports. That is called Analysis of Bigmouth Buffalo Spawning Phenology in Minnesota Reveals 50-Year Recruitment Failure and Conservation Concern. And finally, as always, visit the new Soil and Water website at aikencounty.swcd.org to learn more about our programs and events.